In our cliffside cottage, where the ocean whispered secrets that caressed the skin, one night could unravel the fragile threads holding three lives together, or weave them into a tapestry of forbidden desire. Her return sparked a fire in me, promising to burn away my doubts and leave only the heat pulsing through my veins. I stood in the kitchen, my fingers trembling on the edge of a wine glass as the salty breath of the ocean seeped through the open window. The cottage on the coast pulsed with the rhythm of the waves, their cadence echoing in my chest like a premonition. Nora had been gone for 3 years, chasing city lights I never understood. We were once inseparable, laughing until dawn, sharing secrets that burned on the tongue, our bodies humming with closeness under starlit skies. But time had stretched a chasm between us, and now, waiting for her knock, I felt my pulse throb in my temples like the ocean in a storm. The knock came, soft but deliberate, like a touch that knew its power. I opened the door, and there she was, Nora, her auburn hair blazing in the glow of the setting sun, her eyes glinting with warmth and a seductive challenge that made my heart stutter. "Ellie," she whispered, her voice low and velvety, sliding across my skin like a warm breath. She stepped forward, pulling me into an embrace, and I felt the heat of her body, the scent of jasmine laced with summer warmth. Her hands lingered on my waist, fingers brushing the curve of my hip, and time melted away, carrying us back to nights when we danced under the stars, fearless. "You're really here," I breathed, my voice trembling as I pressed into her, her warmth seeping into me. "Couldn't stay away," she replied, pulling back to look at me. Her fingers trailed down my arm, pausing at my wrist, and her smile, bold, intoxicating, ignited a fire in me I tried to ignore. My husband, Theo, appeared in the doorway, his presence calm but edged with tension. He knew Nora from my stories, the friend who could charm anyone with a glance, leaving sparks and chaos in her wake. "Nora," he said, nodding, but I caught the way his eyes lingered on her, drinking in her energy, her heat. We settled into the evening, candles flickering in the cottage, their light dancing on the dark windows like echoes of our desires. Nora kicked off her sandals by the door, tossing them with careless grace, and dropped her bag on the couch as if she'd never left. I poured wine, the clink of glasses mingling with her laughter, as she teased Theo about his orderly life, his love for early morning walks along the shore. "You've tamed her, haven't you?" she said, winking at me, her gaze lingering on my lips, sending heat coursing through my veins. "Where's the Ellie who ran barefoot on the sand at midnight?" I laughed, but the sound felt tight, my eyes catching how Theo's smile lingered on Nora, his gaze tracing the curve of her neck. The air grew thicker, like the calm before a storm, and I felt my body respond to their closeness, to the heat building between us. After dinner, Nora insisted on washing the dishes. "You cooked," she said, nudging me aside with her hip, her touch leaving a burning trail on my skin. Theo poured the wine, I clean. Her movements were sensual, confident, as she scrubbed a plate, her laughter ringing as she tossed a question at Theo over her shoulder. Does she ever let you off the hook? Or are you the workhorse around here? Theo chuckled, his voice low, tinged with awkwardness. We manage, he said, but his gaze slid to me, then to Nora, lingering on the curve of her hip as she leaned over the sink. I smiled, but something sharp stirred in my chest. Not jealousy, but anticipation, like the tide gathering strength. Later, I handed Nora my favorite robe, a soft, pale blue one that barely brushed the skin. She slipped it on right there in the hallway, the fabric clinging to her damp skin, the outlines of her body visible through the thin material like a whispered temptation. Her hair, wet and tousled, fell over her shoulders, and when she walked into the living room, I caught Theo's gaze linger. His eyes traced the curve of her collarbone, the way the robe parted to reveal her thigh. My pulse quickened, heat spreading through me, not from anger, but from a desire that rose like a wave, ready to crash. We sat together, the wine softening the edges of the night, our conversation flowing like the tide outside. Nora leaned back on the couch, legs tucked under her, her skin glowing in the candlelight as if inviting touch. What if we get reckless? She said, her voice low, almost a whisper that caressed the air. All crash in the same bed, like old times. Her eyes flashed, a challenge simmering in her gaze, and my breath caught, my skin igniting under her words. I laughed. Theo did too, but the laughter was tense, as if we all felt the air charge with electricity. Why not? I said, my voice bolder than I felt. I led them to the bedroom, my heart pounding in time with the waves humming outside. The lights were off, only moonlight spilling through the window, casting silvery shadows across the bed. I lay on my side, facing the ocean, listening to their breathing behind me. Theo was in the middle, his warmth a steady anchor, but Nora's presence burned, a fire barely contained. The bed felt smaller than ever, every inch between us vibrating with mounting tension, like the air before a storm. The silence was thick, electric. I felt Theo shift, just slightly, his body adjusting in a way that wasn't quite still. The blanket rustled, soft but deliberate, and I knew Nora had moved closer. Her hand, I imagined, slid across his chest, fingers lingering on the curve of his waist, and he didn't pull away. My skin tingled, heat coursing through my veins like wine spilling over the rim of a glass. I heard a soft exhale from Theo, deeper than usual, and a softer one from Nora, whispering something indistinct, her voice caressing the air. What struck me wasn't that it was happening, but how easily I let it unfold. I lay still, eyes open in the dark, the air growing hotter, heavier. Nora's breathing was soft, controlled, as if she knew every move she made. Theo slowed, deepened, as if he were balancing on an edge. Then I felt his hand reach for me under the blanket, fingers brushing the curve of my thigh, lingering where my skin was most sensitive, sending a shiver through me. I froze for a moment, but I didn't pull away. He was facing her, but his touch was mine, a quiet anchor in the storm. Something shifted in me, not a crack, but a soft settling. I wasn't outside this, I was part of it. His touch wasn't asking permission, it was inviting, whispering that he wanted me here. I stared at the moonlight, letting the moment stretch, feeling the heat of their closeness, the pulse of their presence. The blanket moved again, this time with clear intent. Nora edged closer to Theo, her movements slow, sensual, as if savoring every breath. I felt her knee brush against his under the sheets, her hand resting on his waist, fingers tracing the curve of his thigh, drawing a soft exhale from him. My pulse raced, a mix of nerves and heat swelling in my chest, like a wave poised to crash. The bed creaked faintly as she settled, her body pressing against his with a grace that felt natural yet intoxicating. She whispered, her voice low, velvety, words barely audible. Something about missing the warmth, the closeness, the way things used to feel. Her voice caressed the air, and Theo's breathing deepened, more focused. But his hand stayed with me, fingers sliding higher up my thigh, pausing where my skin burned under his touch, sending heat rippling through me. My breath quickened, as if I were teetering on the edge of something vast. I was no longer just watching. My hand moved, finding the space at his waist, my fingers tracing the curve of his hip, feeling the warmth of his skin meld with mine. His hand tightened on my thigh, not greedy, but with a quiet confidence that made my heart race. The air hummed like the calm before a storm, Nora's movements slow, her breath soft but deliberate, as if weaving an invisible spell. Theo's attention wavered between us, and then, suddenly, everything stilled. The silence was alive, charged. I closed my eyes, not from fear, but because I was ready. I turned slowly, the sheets whispering against my skin as if urging me on. Nora was there, her silhouette soft in the moonlight, her presence burning with quiet power. Theo lay between us, still, but his warmth was a beacon. I didn't hesitate. I slid closer, the bed shifting under me until I was beside them. The blanket rustled faintly, but no one reacted. It felt right, inevitable. My hand reached for Nora, fingers brushing her wrist, then sliding to the curve of her thigh, where her skin was hot and soft. She turned, her eyes meeting mine in the dark, clear and inviting, as if she'd been waiting for me. Then Nora leaned closer, her breath hot against my skin, her movements slow, tender, as if she knew how to kindle a fire without rushing. Her hand slid along my thigh, pausing where my skin was most sensitive, her tongue promising a pleasure that flowed like a wave, soft but relentless. Her fingers moved with delicate confidence, lower, closer, as if coaxing the deepest parts of me to sing, sending a shiver from my core to my chest. I trembled, my breath quickening as her touch, light and sensual, ignited a heat I couldn't contain. It wasn't just closeness, it was devotion, quiet but profound, making my body hum with a wave of pleasure. Theo turned to me, his hand sliding to my waist, fingers tracing the curve of my hip, hot and sure, sending another surge of heat through me. Our lips met, soft but with a burning intensity, a moment of connection that felt eternal. His hand rose to my neck, holding me close, his breath mingling with mine. Nora didn't retreat, her movements fluid, sensual, carving space where we were all entwined. Her warmth, her tenderness, her delicate exploration of my body made me shudder, as if a wave were washing over me, leaving only bliss. The moment stretched, our breaths intertwined, hands finding each other in the dark. Nora's fingers brushed my thigh, hot and certain, and I felt the boundaries between us blur. Theo turned to her, his hand sliding along her waist, then back to me, his warmth enveloping us both. We moved together slowly, letting the night guide us. The heat built, not loud, but deep, like a tide rolling toward the shore. Our touches wove together, Nora's hand on my thigh, mine on Theo's hip, his on us both. We surrendered to the moment, letting it consume us, our bodies finding a rhythm that needed no words. It was a union, quiet but all-consuming, where every breath, every touch, was part of something greater. As the night enveloped us, we became one, our silhouettes merging in the moonlight. The heat between us swelled, melting into an intoxicating harmony, leaving only the warmth of our bodies entwined in the dark. We didn't speak, didn't explain. Everything was clear in the silence, in the touches, in how we let ourselves be together. When the light softened and the ocean whispered outside, I lay between them, my body still humming from their warmth. Nora breathed evenly, her hand resting on my thigh, confident yet gentle. Theo was beside me, his fingers hot on the curve of my waist, his presence steady as the shore. I felt whole, not on the edge, but at the center, where every breath was part of something bigger. The night stretched on, but the silence wasn't empty. It was full, alive, and in it, I found myself, not a witness, not a part, but whole.
If you enjoyed my story about the intoxicating dance of three souls finding harmony in the heat of the night, give this video a like and don't forget to subscribe. Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think.